I had a revelation this week. I spent a lot of time laying out and organizing my shop, but there's still a couple of places, like inside my cabinets, that are a complete disaster. Specifically, my shop junk drawer. I mean, come on, man. All I wanted was a small, flat-headed paintbrush.
Come on, man!
For things like tongue depressors, glue sticks, and paintbrushes, maybe it's time to build something practical for the benchtop using small pieces of wood I already have. Stop right there. Pick that hardwood back up. There are plenty of these smaller scrap wood pieces to pick from, but I'll have to glue up some rip cuts together for the width that I need. To start, I've got this slightly bigger piece of red oak, some smaller blocks of cherry, and even some black walnut, though regular pine for this project would have been perfectly adequate.
Over-engineered.
I think I'll skip over the repetitive rip cuts and gluing, which I seem to put in every video, though I made sure the edges were flat and ready for clamping. The next day, I unclamped the stock and moved back to the table saw to cross-cut 3-inch pieces for each box. With a small stop block set up on my mini crosscut sled, every piece will be cut at the same width. Walnut was first, and then cherry, and finally the oak. In all, I'll have enough pieces for 5 small upright bins, 1 walnut, 2 cherry, and 2 oak. My glue joints needed a little sanding, and that's what I did on a new 150 grit belt. My new dust collection hack seems to have improved the suction pretty nicely. Now, since this is just a benchtop organizer, butt joints would have been fine on the box construction.
Over-engineered.
But I decided to cut mitered corners instead. And though I could obviously tell what would be sitting inside each one of the bins, I thought a laser engraved label and picture was needed. Now that I'm doing this, I feel instant regret, like when standing in the middle of Hobby Lobby's mood sign section.
That sign is so cute.
Well, regardless of how you feel about signs telling you how to feel, it was time to feel productive again and get these little bins glued and assembled. I squared up the bottoms of the 4 sides against a ruler and then used my favorite painter's tape trick to help pull the sides and pinch the corner miters together. We'll let this sit overnight. Now how about a touch of magic to finish the remaining bins? For the purpose of a small storage bin, the glued miter joints are perfectly fine, especially if we glue them together in a row. But then I thought, hey, let's drill in some small bamboo dowel holes to secure the joints even further.
Over-engineered.
With a trusty one-time created then throw-away drill jig, I added 2 dowels per corner, or 8 per bin. 40 holes and dowels total. Cutting bamboo dowels has its own challenges, like they want nothing better than to splinter off as you cut them. Then there's the problem of getting a tiny bit of glue down each tiny hole, until I remembered that a curved tip epoxy syringe would be perfect for exactly that purpose. So each dowel hole got its recommended daily allowance of Titebond 3 vitamins, and the bamboo dowels were hammered into place. Using a Japanese flush cut saw, the dowels were trimmed back to the surface of the wood, leaving only some touch-up sanding required before finishing the bins. Before I pick out a base for this benchtop organizer, I'll glue the bins together in a row against a straight edge and then pick out my base. I did have this leftover piece of rare TIgerwood that happens to be at the right length and width for this project. Of course, any lumberyard piece of 1x6 would have been fine too, except that it wouldn't have been
over-engineered.
I'll center the bins on the TIgerwood and then mark out the inside lines of each bin so that I know where it's safe to drill in some screws from the bottom. And then I thought, in keeping with the theme of the video, what if I lose power when I'm down in the shop? How would I be able to find those glue sticks for my non-operational electric glue gun? Wouldn't a non-electrical light source sitting in front of each bin, an appropriate label, be a great idea?
Over-engineered.
Let's bring some bright glow sand and epoxy to this party. This glow material was pretty expensive, but it was left over from a kinetic sculpture project I did a couple years ago. It does keep to the spirit of using up old scrap materials in this project, so, you know, whatev. I'll attempt to put on some rubber gloves, not all that easy when you have Muppet hands, and mix up some epoxy with the glow sand to fill in the round recesses in front of each bin. A little dab in each Forstner bit drilled hole will give me a perfectly round glowing button in front of each one of the 5 bins. And in doing a quick lights out test, the glow effect looks really cool. The next day I needed to drill out some pilot holes that followed the pencil lines of the 5 bins. I'll drill 10 holes for cabinet screws and then recess the holes in the bottom with a small Forstner bit to bury the heads of those screws. I mean, 2 screws would have held the bins in place, but then again the theme of this video is
over-engineered.
With all the fabrication completed, it was time for sanding and finishing and the final glowing reveal. See what I did there? Let's add a soundtrack to the final build steps. This scrapwood project turned out to be pretty handy for the junk drawer items that I used most often, and although over-engineered, it looks pretty great at the back of my side workbench. Hey everybody, thanks for watching. We hope you give us a like, subscribe, and leave us a comment. We truly appreciate it. Take care.